Althea Morrison was losing a war against a 55-pound suitcase. It was a silent, brutal conflict waged in the narrow aisle of an Amtrak Acela Express train. Car 3, the suitcase, a black behemoth she'd packed with the density of a dying star, refused to ascend into the overhead luggage rack. Her arms trembled, muscles screaming in protest. As an assistant professor of kinesiology and sports medicine, she knew the precise mechanics of a proper lift: core tight, back straight, power from the legs. She was demonstrating none of them. This was pure, stubborn, brute force, and she was failing. A low, clear voice cut through her frustration. Need a hand with that. She glanced over her shoulder. The man in seat 21B was looking up at her. He was wearing a surgical mask, but his eyes, they were calm, dark, and held a hint of amusement. He was young, a student. Probably. I've got it, she said, her voice tighter than she intended. Pride was a terrible thing. She took a deep breath, regrouped, and gave the suitcase one last desperate heave. Easy there, the voice said again. Closer this time. You're going to throw your back out. Before she could protest, he was standing. He was tall, taller than she'd expected. He reached for the suitcase, his long fingers brushing against hers. Let me, he said, not as a question, but as a soft command. He bent slightly, grabbed the handle, and in a single, fluid motion that was biomechanically all wrong, he lifted. There was a faint, sickening pop, and then a sharp hiss of breath through his teeth. He froze. The 55-pound suitcase was still in his hand, halfway to the rack. His entire body had gone rigid. Her professional instincts, a curse she could never turn off, kicked in immediately. You torqued your lumbar spine, she blurted out, the words clinical and cold. That kind of asymmetrical load without core engagement, it's going to affect your force production. The man slowly, painfully, placed the suitcase back on the floor. He turned to face her. His eyes, above the mask, cycled through a universe of reactions: white, red, black. Her brain, catching up to her mouth, screamed at her. She tried to backpedal, to fix it, but the only words that came out were a chaotic, horrifying mess. I'll be responsible for you. The long holiday weekend was over. A new semester at Weymouth University loomed. Althea sank into her aisle seat, 21A, wishing she could physically retract the last 30 seconds of her life. The young man in 21B, the one whose back she had just professionally diagnosed and then bizarrely offered to take responsibility for, was now sitting with his eyes closed, leaning heavily against the window, a perfect stranger. This was exactly why she preferred to keep to herself. She hated dealing with social livewires, those aggressive extroverts who treated every shared space like a networking event. This guy, at least, seemed to radiate a do not disturb aura. Excellent. She glanced at him again, this time through a professional lens. Her curse, even when she wasn't in the lab or the lecture hall, she saw the world in terms of muscle groups and movement patterns. He was a good specimen. That was the first thought that flashed through her mind. Even through his plain t-shirt, she could see the evidence of well-structured training. The anterior deltoids were full, the lines of his biceps clean, the curve of his gastrocnemius, his calf muscle, was beautifully defined. It spoke of consistent, athletic activity, and more importantly, a lack of compensation issues. No muscular imbalances forcing other groups to work overtime. She wondered about his lats and rectus abdominis, but those were hidden. As for his face, she hadn't really looked. It didn't matter. For someone in her field, perfect leverage ratios and distinct muscle topography were far more captivating than a pretty face. She shook her head, trying to clear the diagnostic chatter. She had her own 55-pound beast to conquer. She stood up, took a firm grip on her own suitcase, tightened her core, and prepared to execute a flawless lift. I can get that for you. The voice was crisp. It was 21B. He must have been disturbed by her movement. She looked down as he looked up. Their eyes met. For a split second, both of them froze. Clang, hiss. It turned out that under the mask, 21B was handsome, devastatingly handsome, the kind of face she remembered from your first high school crush. So handsome, in fact, that it startled her, and she dropped her suitcase squarely on his foot. I am so sorry. Oh my god, I'm sorry. She scrambled to pull the suitcase away. Her brain went into full diagnostic mode again. Did it hit the top of your foot? Any feeling like you're stepping on nothing? It probably didn't fracture a metatarsal, but I'm fine, he said, his voice strained. He stood up, his gaze flicking from her to the luggage rack and back again, deliberately, avoiding her eyes. He was trying to hide the pain. Give me the suitcase. The kid was tall, and clearly had too much pride. No, really, don't. It's a dead weight. Before she could finish, he'd already grabbed it with one hand. The veins on his forearm stood out in sharp relief. A knot of dread tightened in her stomach. Wait, your form is all wrong. You have to brace your core, drive with your glutes and legs. Hiss, of course. The prettier the specimen, the less it listened. He was frozen in place again, the suitcase dangling from his hand. Don't move. She snatched the suitcase from him and guided him back into his seat. Then she turned to face the luggage. One step forward, knees bent, back straight, engage the core, a textbook deadlift. With a clean swoosh, the suitcase was on the rack. That was the correct way to generate force. She dusted off her hands and turned back to him, her professorial tone taking over. A strained back affects all your power generation, she said. Unable to stop herself, you can't just muscle through things. You need proper technique, or you'll regret it later. An unstable core is just empty strength. She was about to launch into a free, impromptu lecture on the prevention and rehabilitation of sports injuries, but then she saw his face. It was a storm of colors, pale, then red, then a dark, thunderous black. Was her voice too loud, or had he actually herniated a disc? A fresh wave of panic washed over her. She knelt in the aisle beside him. Okay, pull up your t-shirt, turn a little to the side, let me see. He seemed to hesitate for a moment, but then, he complied, lifting the hem of his shirt. It revealed a sliver of a lean, defined waist. The line of his external oblique was impressive. Alright, if you're comfortable, just lift the back of your shirt so I can see the area. She gently pressed her fingers against the area around his lower back. Does it hurt here? Any numbness? A shooting pain down your leg? Everywhere. Her fingers touched. She could feel the muscles underneath tense and quiver. Hey now, no need to be nervous, kid, it's just an acute lumbar muscle strain, nothing serious. She was about to reassure him, but her mouth, on autopilot, defaulted to her professional expression. Okay, it doesn't feel too bad, but you'll have to take it easy with any explosive movements for a while. Don't worry too much. A few days of rest. It shouldn't affect your daily life. You're young. You'll recover quickly, but you absolutely have to learn to control yourself. Before she could finish, his hand shot out and clamped down on her wrist. Hard. He pulled her hand away from his back, his voice a little hoarse. I'm really fine. Then why was his face flushed crimson? No, you're not. You can't just tough this out. Don't push your body just because you're young. That's how chronic injuries start. We should go to a hospital and get it checked out. He said nothing in response to her suggestion. His face just got darker. Okay. She was definitely talking too much. She was annoying him. She scratched her head, trying to defuse the situation. I'll go find the conductor. See if they have an ice pack. Can I get your number? The question came out of nowhere. She froze. Then she looked at his face, trying so hard to look composed, and at his hand, still gripping her wrist as if she were a flight risk. It clicked. He was afraid she was going to run away, and he was too embarrassed to say it. A part of her found it absurdly funny, looking into those wide, puppy dog eyes. She sighed, and softened her voice. Don't worry, I'll be responsible for you. When she returned with the ice pack, he was still in the same position. Now that no one was watching, he dropped the tough guy act. His eyes were squeezed shut, his brow furrowed. He was clearly in pain. She effortlessly lifted her 55-pound suitcase down from the rack again. She was rummaging through it when she felt his eyes on her. She looked up. He was staring at the contents of her suitcase. Goldfish crackers, Cheez-Its, Gushers, Capri Sun, Cosmic Brownies, Tacos Fuego. A corner of his mouth twitched upwards. His shoulders were shaking. He was trying not to laugh. Heat flooded her cheeks. Her college habit of packing like she was moving out of her parents' house for good had somehow persisted into her professional life. She pulled a clean hand towel from a vacuum-sealed bag, muttering under her breath, it's not that I can't afford to buy them on campus. It's just, raiding them from home is more cost-effective. A 100% savings. A distinct sound came from behind her. What's so funny, kiddo? Haven't you ever seen a grown woman's survival kit? Pretending she hadn't heard, she stood up, turned to the side again. She wrapped the ice pack in the towel and leaned in to find the right spot. He stopped her again. I can do it myself. Fair enough. She retracted her hand and placed her own U-shaped neck pillow behind his lower back. Adjust your posture. Don't put any weight on your lumbar spine. She set an alarm on her.